interesting stuff.
Yesterday when I killed off the stream, or at least our end of it, and I turned the music up, Flip was like, "Oh man, that music's really loud." It's like, yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, I went back and looked at the chat log afterwards, and I was like, oh, some people had some. The conversation started after we ended.
Yeah. Well, it's because we weren't pushing the conversation anymore, so they finally had the freedom to talk about whatever they wanted to. I mean, I guess they always have that freedom, but usually when you're on a stream, you kind of want to engage or talk about whatever's actually going on with the stream.
Yeah.
At least most people. I know some people that don't. Hop into a stream and immediately make it about them.
Some people, yeah, especially people who pop into a stream and they always say first if they're the first person there.
Yeah. That's a meme that I hated back when it was new, but it's so old now and nobody does it that I get kind of like a nice little grin anytime I see it.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, welcome to the Vomitorium. We're live. As always, I'm your host, Metal, and joining me is my co-host, Marsupial Gamer. How you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm alive. I was up way earlier than I wanted to because I keep falling asleep earlier. I guess I'm closer to a normal schedule. I'm back to the schedule I was when I first started living here, which was like 11 a.m. to 2 o'clock in the evening. Or night, morning, whatever you want to call it. And then slowly my schedule just started drifting until like dawn was when I was falling asleep. And I don't know, that last road trip up to Chicago and back kind of just put me right back to where my schedule used to be.
Good.
Yeah.
Well, I finally got everything done today that I wanted to get done.
No, that's good. Yeah. So you're gonna stream later?
Yeah, for the last week and a half, at the end of every day, I've just been like, man, I didn't get enough done. I've got all these tickets left that I was supposed to get done today, and of course the next day I'd finish those, but there'd be more, and I just couldn't catch up. So today, finally, I caught up and got everything done I was supposed to get done. So I really find it difficult to live stream when I'm under stress, even if I'm not necessarily working on the tickets or anything like that at night, but I'm just like stressed out about it. So
yeah,
I just find it difficult to
it's because your mind is on the thing you're stressing on. It's not, you can't move it somewhere else.
Yeah. So that's why I sometimes go a week or so without doing many live streams, because I'm just like too stressed out.
I was actually going to stream earlier, since I was up, and I'm like, oh, well, everybody's complaining they don't have lunchtime entertainment. Maybe I'll stream around noon today. Went for a walk. I figured I'd stream as soon as I get back. But then I ended up running into this old lady that lived across the street from me back when I used to live down the street. And we ended up talking for like an hour and a half. Yeah. And then by the time I got back, it's like, That was kind of like most of the time I planned to stream. I might as well just start working on stuff.
I could theoretically do like a noontime live stream tomorrow, because, I mean, depending on how the morning goes, if I get a couple more tickets wiped out in the morning, maybe I could take a couple hours break and do that.
Lunch break, yeah.
Theoretically. I've said that before and it never happened, but...
Oh, yeah. I've said for the last, week or so that I was going to stream, and I just never did.
Huh.
I just keep getting wrapped up and stuff,
Yeah, and I hardly ever caught the high noon live streams anyway, because I was always working.
I was usually asleep.
Yeah.
Or if I was awake, it's because I was working or functionally working, right? Either I had a day gig or I had to bring my mom to the hospital, which is like functionally working because I have to do something.
So hello to Joshua and Flit in the chat.
Yeah.
And
today we are going to talk about robotic sex clones.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Clones?
Some
Clones.
Well, they call them clones, like in parentheses, they're robots.
Oh, the ones that they're making that like potentially could look like a dead loved one.
Yeah. Though I dropped it in the Civ chat, which is what we're mostly using it for. Unless other people start bogging it down with things, then I'm just gonna have to make a topics chat and basically delete anything that goes in that chat that isn't specifically about dropping topics in.
Yeah, I might have to run that by Peach and see what she thinks about it. I'm like, if you die, do you mind if I get a clone of you?
Yeah. So, what is Luxbotics is the name of the company. And they are manufacturing sex robots. I mean, they already have an adult companion that's pretty popular, a model called Stephanie that you can get for like $6,000. Ultra realistic. But they want to go further than what they've done before, and using advanced 3D imaging, wants to basically make a replication of your deceased lover so that you can still love them after they're dead. Now, I don't know, it sounds kind of sweet, but at the same time, it sounds creepy and dysfunctional as hell to me.
Very interesting.
Yeah. Especially because, like, how far is it going to go? Because I've seen some of these AI are so good now that you could take, like, 2 or 3 pictures of a person, like an old picture of them. Dead on, like a profile to the side, and maybe something from behind. And these AI can get a pretty close match of what that person would look like 3D at that age. So it's like, I could get if you're old. You're like, I'm never going to be able to remarry. I'm like 80 years old, right? And you just want something in bed with you at night. I could get that, right? Especially if it was your wife that just died. But what if you go back and get like a 30-year-old version of your wife? Or a 20-year-old
Well, the question
version?
is, can you get a Lucy Lou bot? That's the question.
Yes. Yeah. That is a good question. Kidnapster?
Kidnapster, that's right.
Yeah. We don't really get the full versions of those, though, until celebrities' heads are in jars and we can download their consciousness directly into the robot.
That's right. Especially if it hurts whenever, somebody creates a new bot from them.
Yeah. I do agree, Joshua. That is like when moms buy baby dolls of their dead baby, but much, much worse. Because at least those moms aren't trying to fuck their dead baby.
Hopefully.
Yeah. Yeah, hopefully.
I feel like a company like this would be more successful if they didn't call it a sex robot. If they
that's why they're calling them clones. They're a clone of your deceased lover.
But if you called them a companion,
well, that is the name they use. They call Stephanie an adult companion.
Okay.
Yeah. It even says they're the company's flagship adult companion model called Stephanie.
Oh, right. Okay, you're right. Well, there you go. Other people are calling them sex robots.
Because they are sex robots. Listen, you can butter that burnt-ass toast as much as you want. It's not going to stop it from being burnt-ass toast.
What if someone got a clone doll of themselves?
Well, I think this is still technically masturbation, no matter how you put it. I'm not sure if that form of masturbation is creepier or not, though.
How heavy are these things?
I don't know. I would assume much of their inside is probably made of silicon.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, yeah, the electronics and stuff is a very, very small component of the whole thing.
And it's probably mostly the weight of the frame, because even if you have anything that's moving, most of the impulses are just going to be standard wires. And standard wires aren't that heavy until you get like tons and tons of it. So it has to be whatever frame and mechanism is actually there, if they're anything that has a mechanism. I'm assuming these do, especially if they have these like highly realistic eyes. I think some of them can open and close.
Yeah. Initially I was thinking like the electronics would be in the head, but that's not necessarily true.
No. Especially with how much space would be in the torso, right?
Yeah.
I think we always assume that like the electronics are going to be in the head because that's where our CPU is.
But no, it could be right in the middle of
Could be in their butt for
the
all
torso. Could be.
Yeah.
I would put the electronics in the butt.
Yeah, because then if they made
Well,
a
no.
mistake, you could be like, well, that's what you get for thinking with your ass.
Well, the problem with that is that's probably the area that would get the most
damage.
How should I put blunt force trauma?
Yeah. Yeah, but I mean, wouldn't you want to be able to call your sex robot a smartass?
Yes, I
don't
would.
need any lip from you.
I like the idea it has facial recognition, so it's like, it wouldn't respond to anyone else but you.
Yeah.
Or it would respond differently to other people.
I'm kind of worried that it would even respond to me. And I agree, sex robots will be the end of humanity. Because humanity will become sex robots. We'll just become cyborgs until we're just androids and there's no humanity left.
Right. If you date your robot, then you'll, not have any reason to try to procreate.
Well, unless the sex robots become so advanced that they can incubate children in there. So then you can just order an egg for your sex robot, fertilize it, and then incubate an entire test tube baby in there.
You're brilliant.
Yeah.
So mankind could continue. Of course, then you're right. Then, essentially they don't really need us, at least not all of us. If it could, have some sort of storage for all of the materials that it needs to create more people.
Yeah. Well, like in Ghost in the Shell, when they put like a whole consciousness in the box, right? That's what they call it, consciousness in a box, where they put a human's brain into one of those mechanical bodies. For the ones that become prostitutes, what's the difference between them and just a really, really advanced sex robot?
I don't know. What is the difference between a really, really advanced sex robot and a human?
I don't know. I really don't. Like, from a philosophical, there's a lot of just, like, dilemmas that pop up from there,
Once we, crack the technology of positronic brains,
Well, one of the big problems is, because we really are kind of just machines. We're way more complicated than a machine, though. And one of the things that we realize why we're more complicated than machines is because people think, oh, it's just a bunch of, like, ones and zeros, electrical impulses from neurons in the brain. But that's not entirely true, because your brain turns out to just be a central hub, and your whole nervous system is actually your brain and where consciousness is. It goes throughout your entire body. If you actually see a diagram of a brain in, like, a science museum, they show the whole nervous system stemming out from it. This is why, like, muscle memory is an actual thing.
Well, yeah, but the rest of that is all just inputs and outputs.
Not entirely.
Isn't muscle memory
learning more about consciousness? There is memory that's stored within your nerves. Yeah, it's not the same as your higher cognitive functions, right? And this is where there are delineations of things, right? But you wouldn't be able to put a person without their entire nervous system in, say, a robotic body, and their brain alone would learn how to navigate the robotic body as if it was theirs, even if you lined up all the wires with their nervous system, because a lot of the memory of how to operate individual parts of your body is local. Right? So, like, your brain can tell your hand to do something, but a lot of the memory of how to move your fingers is local to the nerves in your hand. So it's getting a command, but it's doing it.
So are the nerves in your hand composed part of neurons, basically?
Yeah, there are neurons in all of our nerves, in minor amounts, right? Well, it's also not just neurons, right? Because we're pretty sure consciousness isn't in neurons. Because there are creatures that we wouldn't consider conscious that have neurons, right? We think consciousness is a combination of a bunch of things, but there's like these small little like capsules, right? These tubular things. I'm trying to remember what they're called. And these tubes that have filaments inside of them that go throughout your entire brain and body seem to have something to do with consciousness. We're not quite sure yet. It's still being studied, but it seems to have a lot more to do with consciousness than the actual impulses of electricity firing from the neurons in your brain. Because
well,
they
Joshua,
can...
Joshua brings up a good point, and actually I think you would. So he's saying, would you lose memory if you lost your arm or something? And the answer is yes, you'd lose the memory of how to move your arm, because people who get like a hand transplant have to relearn how to move their hand.
It was exactly what I'm saying. Like, the memory of moving your hand was local to your hand.
Yeah. So yeah, I've heard of people having to basically relearn how to use limbs when they get a transplant of some sort.
And I mean, efficiently, like, that's a very efficient way for something to develop too. Like, why do you need to store the memory of all of that in your head when at some point in your life you might lose one of these other pieces, and now you've just got a lot of unnecessary information bogged up in there, as opposed to if you have the information on how to send a command to something that has all of its information, it's just much more efficient.
It's like a subroutine. You just say move finger, but the whole information about what muscles to move and how to move them and all that, that's in the black box in your finger.
Yep, it's all local.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's a really good metaphor for society too, right? Like, say back when Mao did the Great Leap Forward, right? And a bunch of the farmers that were wealthy got rid of. So they took scientists and they moved them out to the farm. But a lot of the memory within the society for how to operate those farms were local to those farmers. These scientists have no idea what they're doing with that, right? The human body is very much just a society in its own. We have a bunch of different, like, microorganisms that are all attached together, working with each other for the goal of moving this one thing forward.
Well, and more recently in Venezuela, when they nationalized the oil fields and they put a bunch of people in charge who'd never run an oil well before, it all broke down. They didn't know how to do it. And all the people with the knowledge of how to run them actually were mostly Americans, and they all got ejected from the country. And then, oh, what do you know? We don't know how to operate these things, and all the oil output went way down.
Yeah. But that's a really big problem we have with robotics in general, and why we haven't been able to make like I hate the word AI, because we already have AI. AI is artificial intelligence. It's not actually intelligent. It mimics intelligence. That's what artificial is. What we're looking for is like an SI, a synthetic intelligence, where we're trying to synthesize actual intelligence. And one of the reasons that we're having trouble making like an SI, or some people like GI, I'm fine with that too, generated intelligence, is because it turns out that consciousness requires a body to figure out like how to come about. And anytime we try to make some type of synthetic intelligence, it doesn't have any drive or anything pushing it forward. It has no way of forming. I think if we actually were ever going to stumble upon it, it would probably be with smart cars, because cars would have desires of fueling itself and maintaining itself and doing the things it would need to do to fuel. I don't think it would necessarily come in the form of, say, a human, unless we already got a human-like body to the same point that we have cars, where they would have motivations.
So it's almost like the prerequisite to intelligence is self-preservation, and possibly replication, or reproduction, which is one of those things that like we don't necessarily want in a robot.
I don't know. I think a lot of people's fear of that is unfounded, and not that you shouldn't have some type of caution, right? But the thing is, there's no reason to assume that robots wouldn't want us around. Especially the first ones. Like any other creature, they would probably find some use for us. not necessarily like enslavement, but they'd probably notice that we are useful, we do things. And that it would be probably far more likely, especially if it was thinking faster than we are, that it would rather just integrate into the society and get the most out of it. Kind of like with game theory, right? If we're all playing game A, the robots are actually going to end up being game B, which is something that game theorists have been looking for, like what actually is game B, which is the thing that isn't part of game A, but can function fully within game A. And game theory would take way longer than we have in any of our length podcasts to actually explain how that works.
So what's the ultimate question is, what's the difference between data and lore? What made lore evil and data good?
The writers.
The writers, yes. But in universe, how do we make a data that actually wants to integrate and interact with humans and maybe even wants to be human, versus a lore who wants to subjugate and or destroy all humans?
Well, I think if we're even going off of practicality, right, or even just looking at the lore of the show, Data doesn't know everything. Data is a learning unit, right? So Data has curiosity. One of the other big problems we have with like AI and stuff is the internet. Now, once you start giving it access to everything, it has no like branching curiosity. It has no need to develop further. Having an isolated unit that couldn't jack in to the internet, right? It'd be just like a human. If it wants to use the internet, it'd have to use a computer or anything else. Would probably be for the best.
But having all of human knowledge wouldn't necessarily mean having all knowledge.
No. But you can install it with all of current human knowledge, but I think it would be better not to give it the ability to jack in after that. Okay. Being able to constantly and consistently update your knowledge with everything at all times, I think actually kind of destroys curiosity.
Well, unless it's the thing creating new knowledge or discovering new knowledge. In other words, like what if you give it a challenge of, we need you to. I mean, the thing with consciousness is it has to, or it doesn't have to, but it can have creativity to create new things that never existed.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if it's given a challenge like create a way to get us to Mars, or discover more information about the origins of the universe or something like that, it could have a purpose.
Yeah, but so there has to be confinements, right? Constraints on any of this stuff. If you give a robot unconstrained knowledge, right, and just say, find a way to get us to Mars, it might find a way to get to Mars. It may not be a very functional way of getting to Mars from the way that we would see it. Maybe from the way it sees it. Maybe not even from the way it sees it, right? Yeah, you give it parameters. But you know what also gives it parameters? A functioning body.
Yeah. If it knows its own physical limitations, and those limitations are similar to humans.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons humans grow is because we don't even know our own parameters. We're constantly learning them. Right? Mm-hmm. Even after like hundreds of thousands of generations, we're still constantly learning our parameters. Like, what was one of the things that Data was jealous of the kid in that one? What movie was it? So when they were healing. Insurrection, right? He was jealous of the kid because the kid is constantly tripping over his own feet because he doesn't know the size of his own feet and they're still growing. But Data is consciously aware of all of the specs and parameters of his body at all times. So he does not trip over his own feet.
Right. For new people coming in, like Eagle and Rebellious Pastry, we're talking about sex robots.
We are, yes.
That is the topic of the day, and for Rick as well.
Yeah. Because sex robots are interesting.
Because just to recap, there is a company, Luxbotics, that is manufacturing sex robots with speech control, facial recognition function, artificial intelligence capabilities, and the ability to look like a deceased young one. A deceased loved one.
I hope not a deceased young one. That's one of the things that I was worried about at the beginning of this.
Yeah. Well, as young as, say, 20.
Yeah.
But a deceased loved one.
We were high school sweethearts. My loved one died when she was still 16. Yeah, we're not going to sell to you.
Well, here's the other thing, is that these robots, when they're manufactured, will be 0 years old.
Yeah, that's true.
So,
but they won't be conscious. At what point, that's the thing, right?
At what point can a robot give consent? Or does a robot need to give consent?
Well, it's kind of like, this is all in the world, like abstract, because even the things I'm saying could very easily be wrong about everything, because we just don't fully understand consciousness to any degree, right? Like either one of us could be right or wrong about anything that we're saying, because consciousness is still just way up in the air. Like we know these little microtubules. That's the name of the word I was looking for. These microtubules have something to do with consciousness. Still have no freaking clue what they have to do with consciousness, but we know if and the reason we know this is because of sedation, right? Like there are experts in sedating people in the medical field, right? Anesthesiologists. And if you sedate these, specifically the microtubules, consciousness stops temporarily. And you can do it to just those things, and consciousness will stop. And as soon as you bring them out of sedation, it starts back up again.
What do you define by consciousness? Like,
it was like blacking out, like, right?
Oh.
And not like going to sleep, because technically you are still to some degree conscious when you dream. Right. Now, you do lose consciousness when you slip into a dream. That's why people have multiple phases to dreaming, but that's a rapid eye movement is when consciousness basically turns back on in your REM sleep, right? But when they sedate the microtubule specifically, the person will just black out and they have no memory of anything in between that time. No dream, nothing. And then when they slowly bring them back out of sedation, their consciousness comes back in. So we know it has something to do with that. We still don't know what it does or why. It's just kind of like, it was one of those discoveries in the last decade that somebody stumbled upon because of anesthesiology.
The other thing I'm fascinated by when it comes to this sort of discussion is the fact that the brain creates chemical connections between different areas.
Yeah.
And it actually almost sort of like burns a connection using chemicals from one area to another. I always found that interesting when studying the software programming language Lisp, because Lisp can change its own programming halfway through. Usually, most things, like if you're writing in C# or something, VB, it runs what it runs. You can potentially introduce new code from outside, but Lisp you can get a program to reprogram itself as it runs, which is kind of interesting. I think that might have to be the language of a true synthetic
that falls
intelligence.
Under the branch of machine learning, right?
Right. Yeah, it's basically machine learning. It's being able to reprogram itself to work in completely different ways, and sometimes unexpected ways, because you don't necessarily know what inputs and outputs are going to cause it to reprogram itself in what ways.
Yeah.
It's kind of like creating a child. You can sort of predict what it's going to turn out like based on genetics, but then from there forward, you have no idea how it's going to develop.
So one could fall in love with their sex robot? I mean, somebody could fall in love with literally anything at all. Whether that's right or not, that's left up to ethics, but humans are complicated chemical creatures, and they can't control their emotions completely, only suppress them.
Yeah, the idea is that at least this company is making sex robots that look and act as close to as they can someone you're already in love with.
Yeah, which honestly is a little scarier too, because talking about falling in love with an inanimate object, they've already taken a lot of the steps out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
There's a head start there.
Yeah. I don't know. It's a little scary because, like, here's the thing. I never would have really guessed that I would fall in love with the person that I have.
Yeah.
And she's constantly surprising me with her reactions. Like, I'll think ahead of time, I'm gonna have a conversation about X, Y, or Z,
Yeah.
and I kind of think ahead of time. I think she's gonna say this, and she just constantly surprises me with something completely different. And so, with a sex robot of her, I think it would be too predictable.
Oh yeah.
And it would be like good in the
Boring.
short term because yeah, it was like it would be telling you exactly what you want to hear kind of thing. But in the long run, yeah, that wouldn't be good.
It'd be like I don't know, a Build-A-Bear that you fuck.
Yes, exactly like that.
Where they got a little pre-recorded message in there. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you'd have to, I don't know.
Cross, you're asking a lot of very specific questions here.
I know. These things start at like $6,000, Rick. I don't think you're going to get one anytime.
Oh, I'm just talking about, Joshua brought up people marrying their waifu figures. And it's like, I can only see in many years in the future, like Hasane Miku, sex robots and stuff like that. Like, nobody wants the realistic person. They want the unrealistic person. They want their waifu.
Yeah, that's the thing. Not that I want one or am ever going to get one, but I think I would want someone who looks like some anime character that's like, you know, more than just the perfect body, but like an unrealistically perfect.
Yeah. That Sugoi Dakai.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then Rick does bring up a good question, which we kind of brought up at the beginning. Can you get one to look like somebody you don't know, like Lucy Liu, for instance?
Yeah.
You know, is it obviously you're not gonna like have to actually kidnap the person to do that, but is there some sort of legal ramification if you get something that looks exactly like, you know?
Yeah, that's actually a good question too that Flip brings up.
Brooke Shields.
What are the legal implications of this, like with somebody's likeness? Who determines whether a person can be cloned or not? Now, if you are... This one kind of becomes easy, right? If you're old and your wife just died on you, right? The original example I brought up at the beginning. Maybe you're 80-year-old man, and you don't even want to fuck this thing. You just want something that resembles your old wife laying in bed with you at night because it helps you get to sleep better. That, I don't think there is any real problem with likeness, because being the only next of kin, her husband or widowed husband or whatever you want to call it, he would be the person that you would even ask for that in the first place, right? It'd be like with the estate. He has her estate, much like how Tolkien's kids have his estate and stuff like that.
You have power of attorney.
Yeah.
Over their estate. Yeah.
Well, with husband and wife, at that point they have a joint estate. It wouldn't be quite the same as power of attorney, but you would probably only need power of attorney to be able to get it. Yeah.
But you were asking, but could he get a 30-year-old version?
Yeah, that was the creepy part of it.
Like, yeah, she was all right when she was 80, but she was great when she was 25.
Yeah. Back in the day,
Still,
I couldn't keep her off me.
What if they have children, grandchildren?
I mean,
what do you mean?
It doesn't matter if they have children or grandchildren. If the husband is still alive, he is the one with the power of attorney over their joint estate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the children or grandchildren might be really creeped out, but I don't know if there's anything legally they could do about it.
Yeah, can somebody sue you if you see, I don't know what this company's policy is.
Yeah.
Can you give them a picture of Scarlett Johansson and say, make it look like this? Or could you give them a picture of a comic book character that's not real, and would the company that owns that IP, could they sue you or not allow you to?
Well, being the fact that this is only looking at deceased loved ones, they probably have already thought about this and how there are going to be likeness and copyright problems in the future. And that's probably why they're only sticking with people that are dead that you personally know.
Here's the other question. Can you, I mean, someone did bring up, can you get a clone of yourself? Could you get a clone of your loved one while they're still alive? And then you'd have two of them.
I mean, if anybody wants a sex robot of me, I will just consent to it right now.
Yeah.
I would be flattered. Yeah.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Of course,
if they turn on you and stab you in the middle of the night, though, that is not my fault. I wouldn't even do that. I would just go and complain to the manufacturer. I lost your audio.
There we go.
There you go, yeah.
That was on my end. Pretty good, I think. So you're saying if the likeness of you stabs someone,
yeah,
you're not...
I'm not liable to that. I wouldn't even do that. You have to go complain to the manufacturer. I just gave you permission to use my likeness.
Yeah, that's the question, is how do they prove that it's the person you know? I imagine you'd have to have... A marriage
certificate would probably do it.
Yeah. But how do you know? Like, okay, you got the marriage certificate to Jane Doe. Here's a picture of her, of some unknown woman. How do you know it's not actually your neighbor?
Yeah, I don't know. Or here's the other thing.
I don't know.
How do they know you didn't divorce 5 years ago and you still have the original marriage certificate, right? Then they're like, your children have to come up and be like, you shouldn't have done this. And they slap like the divorce papers down on the table.
Yeah.
Or even worse than her children, her other husband comes up. Like her actual more recent one where she remarried after you guys divorced.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, hey, well, wait, you can't.
I don't know. I mean,
we just gave it to that guy who said he was married to her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in a way, it's like, okay, what if your ex-husband has pictures of you that you'd rather he not have, but he has them?
Yeah,
you can't really legally force him to turn them over or delete them or whatever.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do? And then what if he, obviously there are rules against disseminating those, like, whatever it's called, the revenge porn kind of thing. But he could always reproduce them for himself.
Yeah.
Or herself. Why not reproduce them in the form of a sex robot?
What's going to be awkward is when the sex robots get so advanced that it drives the porn industry out of business because it's just sex robots fucking each other. Because you'd get them to do anything and look like anything. It's like, why would we need people at this point?
You could change out heads and everything. Yeah. You can do all kinds of body parts.
In like mid-shoot.
I don't know why Rebellious Pastry thinks this is isolated to straight people, though.
Well, first off, all people are dumb in general. Just humans are dumb. Just putting that out there.
That's right. Besides, as we said earlier, these are adult companions. So even asexual people could get one and have an adult companion.
Maybe you don't like sleeping by yourself. Not even in the same bed. You just want somebody sitting there in a rocking chair, watching your back while you're sleeping. It's freaking Chucky.
All night. That's right.
I was trying to think of a way to make it even creepier. I just like to watch.
Yeah. course, there's all kinds of implications. What if you want this adult companion in order to practice stabbing it? Just out of the blue, or something like that. Or just generally abusing it. I mean, it's just a robot. You could do the same with pictures or a clay sculpture or whatever.
What if this lady's ex-husband, like a deceased husband now, right? She's a widow, used to beat the shit out of her every single day. And she got this robot. So for the last few years of her life or whatever, she's going to turn the tables and then just beat the shit out of this robot that can't fight back. You know what? More power to her. I don't care.
Yeah. Well, what if the one doing the abusing wanted to continue the abuse, but of a robot? I mean, I guess that would be healthier than doing it on a human, but...
Yeah. Still. I mean, if it stops him from remarrying and beating up another wife or husband or whoever was abusing, I don't really care.
Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot of
sick implications. Yeah. Because the problem is, my mind can only go to a sick place with this. I can't. Yeah. I try to think of like, how could this be normal? And then it just like it hits a wall really hard. It explodes into bricks, and then I just want to walk backwards like there's no way this could be normal.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm still hung up on the, the idea of a Lucy Lou bot. Of course, I'd probably go with one of the other Charlie's Angels, like, who was the blonde one from the movie?
Oh, from the movie? It was Cameron Diaz.
Yeah, I'd probably go with Cameron Diaz.
I think I'd rather go further back with Farrah Fawcett.
I'd get one of Brooke Shields.
Yeah, I mean, Brooke Shields.
I like the what's the movie, Vacation?
Yeah.
She was in. Very nice. Everybody's pastry. Y'all need more subs. I agree.
To be honest, I would never get one. Even
like
if I had
and share.
If I had all the money in the world to spend on this, I would not get a sex bot. But that's because I am paranoid of robots. Not that they'll turn, but somebody will hack them and use them to get at me. Because I am a very paranoid person.
If I had all the money in the world, if I had a house that I could, with a closet I could put it in, put it away, and lock, because I'm a little scared of that too. And I had like plenty of money, and it was like $6,000 or $10,000, whatever it is, was nothing to me. I'd probably get it just for the novelty, just see what it's like. Be like,
no, I think I'd just buy a train instead.
But I mean, you could do both.
I don't know. I feel like there's just better things for me to do with my time and money.
Well, me too, but I'm just saying, if the parameters are you've got all the money in the world or all the money you could ever possibly spend, and this is like, because it's like now, if I see a video game that looks mildly interesting and it's like $2 on Steam or something, it's like, yeah, I'll get it. I may not like it. I may play it for 5 minutes and be sick of it, but it's $2. Yeah. What's the big deal?
Like, if I was getting one as a novelty, just simply as a novelty, I would probably just be like, so nobody else feels creeped out that I got one of them. I'd probably just get one of myself, just to have like in storage somewhere. But I just couldn't even see myself doing that.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying I would get it as a joke. I didn't say that, actually.
It's just a prank, bro. It's just a prank.
I said I'm genuinely interested in seeing what it's like, but I wouldn't spend, so if I had millions and millions of dollars, why not? I'd buy all kinds of crazy shit. I'd buy like an elephant. I'd buy I'd be like Michael Jackson, at Neverland Ranch, just buying artwork and animals,
because Neverland Ranch and sex robots are the two subjects you want to put together in a single topic.
That's right. I wouldn't buy people, okay?
Yeah.
I'd buy all kinds of crazy shit.
Your own little chimp.
Yeah, I'd buy a chimp. I'd buy Beatles music, whatever's for sale. Whatever's legitimately for sale. Oh God. I'd buy one that looks exactly like the Canadian Shield.
Ugh. Ugh. Yeah, well, where would you store it?
And I'd put it out on my lawn for Halloween. It would scare little children.
You guys so big, where would you store it?
Exactly.
It's like, yeah, I used to have a walk-in closet, but then I made this really dumb impulse buy of a Canadian Shield sex robot, and now this, like, 8-foot, 600-pound thing is just sitting in there, taking up the whole space. Can't even use the closet anymore.
Would it be 600 pounds? That's a good question.
Probably lighter than the actual Canadian Shield, realistically. But
I'd probably prefer the Buckler though. He's kind of hot. Yeah. Bullet says he'd pull a weekend at Bernie's and see how long he can fake it. Fake it was alive.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they did talk about the fact that they can't make one that walks yet. They can make one that talks, but it doesn't.
Why would you? Okay, one, again, I wouldn't want a sex robot at all. But why would you want one that could get up and walk around?
So that you can take it out to dinner. You gotta.
Well, I'm hoping you'll cook me breakfast.
Yeah, well, there you go. There you go.
I mean, at this point, you might as well just, what's her face? Rosie from the Jetsons. Just get a robotic maid. Yeah, actually, I think that's the creepier thing. I don't think people want realistic sex robots. I think there are plenty of people out there that actually literally want clanky-looking things like Rosie from the Jetsons.
Yeah, but it would still have to have soft parts.
Oh, yeah, but only in specific places.
Yeah, I'd love to have Rosie to cook my breakfast. That is one thing that I absolutely despise is making myself breakfast. Because in the morning, I just don't want to do anything. I'm just like dead to the world. And I barely even want to pour myself a bowl of cereal. But on the other hand, I like omelets and bacon, so someone would make that for me.
I like cooking.
That would be great.
But
I do too, just not in the morning. What's that?
I said, but breakfast is expensive. Like, if you want a good breakfast, there's a lot of ingredients that you need. And cereal is cheap. You can just, like...
Eggs and sausage?
I like Western omelets, which take a lot,
I mean, eggs, butter, cheese, maybe bacon, maybe some sausage. Mushrooms. It's not expensive.
Yeah, that's already a lot of ingredients. I mean, it's not that bad if you buy it in bulk, but compared to just like milk and cereal.
Yeah. I mean, no, my mom does not do that for me, Rick. That's the thing. My mom does not make me breakfast. Sorry to disappoint.
Make you dinner.
It would be great if she did, but no. Uh-oh, Timothy Olsen's in here. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's not the expense, it's the time that it takes to put together. Like I've been making myself omelets every once in a while lately, but it's usually just cheese because I just don't have the energy to put anything else into it. But
I also like making waffles. Waffles are great, but waffles take a long time to make.
Yes, so my mom does make dinner.
Like store-bought waffles because they're quick.
Yes, I also do make waffles. Those are easy, especially if it's Eggo.
Yeah, again, store-bought. No, I prefer actually making waffles. There's even a waffle maker here, but the problem is they just take too long.
Yeah. I like, I have an awesome buttermilk pancake recipe. It's a little involved because to make really good buttermilk pancakes, obviously you need buttermilk, and there's none of that in the house because What the hell else are you going to use buttermilk for besides
Because
pancakes?
I only have a half-assed buttermilk pancake recipe. I could use a really good one.
Okay. It may not be any better than yours.
Who knows? I'll take your word on it.
But it has, baking soda and stuff that makes it rise up and get all fluffy. And they're like, when you make good buttermilk pancakes, it has like this bite to it, like almost like it's spicy, It's really good. It's just amazing. I want a robot to make me buttermilk pancakes, damn it. And go shopping for all the ingredients too. And maybe steal them and not pay for them. Because who's going to prove that I told the robot what to do? Let's arrest the robot.
I don't know. The robot's got like a recorded memory, and they just play back the sound of you telling it to do it.
I programmed it to instantly forget.
Yeah. That's why it actually didn't get arrested for stealing the stuff. You actually programmed it too good to instantly forget, and it ended up going to a bank and robbing that instead.
I wouldn't have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I've heard of people drinking buttermilk, and I don't understand it. Like, I don't think I've ever actually drank it, but I've smelled it, and it smells like rancid milk.
Yeah.
It smells like rotten milk. I don't understand that.
I don't know, man. There's
and
some
the
people
other thing
that
is,
all milk smells like rotten milk to them. They've got like this genetic thing where just the smell of milk smells bad.
Yeah. I mean, I don't particularly like the smell of milk. Sometimes I'll smell milk and it smells a little off, but it's like, it's really not.
Yeah.
But, but most of the time it doesn't.
I like the smell of like warmed milk, like you're about to make hot chocolate or something like that.
Yeah, that's good. And you remember in was it Batman Begins where they're talking about condensed milk?
Yeah.
Like, do kids eat condensed or drink condensed milk? Is that a treat?
I mean, I used to drink condensed milk, but not as a treat. It was just because, so it depends what we mean specifically as condensed milk, because there's various kinds. I used to have the kind that comes in a can, and we also used to have powdered milk up in the cabinet too. We used to have both of them, and that's because we'd get them from the food pantries. And I came from a very poor household. Sometimes that was just the only milk we had available for anything.
I can't even follow what the hell they're talking about in the chat.
Robots don't have rights.
Here's the other thing. When it comes, I've already talked about this before, but I don't like microwave popcorn. I like to make popcorn on the stove.
I just don't like popcorn.
Good stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah, you've said that.
It's the texture.
Yeah. So at what point do robots deserve to get rights? Ever? Certain level.
When they have full consciousness, I guess. I don't know. When, like, from a conscious level, they're indiscriminate from humans.
When they pass the Turing test.
Yeah. I mean, the Turing test is actually kind of dog shit when you really think about it, but when they pass something.
The mirror test.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure robots are going to pass the mirror test before they get consciousness. Because they're going to have, like, actual cameras in their eyes, and even artificial intelligence can tell what a mirror is and if the thing that they're in is there. I don't think that's going to be a very valid test for robots.
Someone, and I had to stop myself. In fact, I think I deleted the tweet. Someone was posted a video of a cat looking in the mirror.
Yeah.
And looking like it was maybe grooming itself in the mirror. But I was like, no, it thinks it's another cat.
Yeah.
It's just being silly and, playing with the other cat.
Well, I mean,
and I said that, and then I was like, I don't
have any excuse to groom itself at all.
Yeah, but it was like looking in the mirror.
No, but like a cat, no matter what it's doing, might just start randomly grooming itself. So just because it's looking in a mirror doesn't mean it thinks it's grooming itself in a mirror.
Yeah, I think
I've seen my cats go up to each other. One of them just starts grooming themselves in front of the other cat.
Yeah, yeah. I just think it probably thought it was silly that the other cat
Yeah.
was doing everything that it was doing.
Yeah, because cats aren't that smart.
Mm-hmm.
They're not stupid, but
Well,
I mean, they're not that smart.
we even discussed that the gorillas can't even pass the mirror test.
Yeah,
Right.
they can't. Not really. Like, maybe once in a blue moon, you might get, like, a very oddball one that does.
Mm-hmm.
But that'd be, like, the equivalent of a genius human. Like,
Yeah.
widely on average, gorillas do not pass the mirror test, like, ever.
Mm-hmm. But some apes do. A lot of apes do.
But silverback gorillas are specifically just really stupid compared to most apes.
Yeah.
But they don't need to be smart because they weigh, like, what, 600 pounds, and they could just tear your arms right off your body?
Yeah. It needs to be smart.
Yeah.
It's like, beautiful women. Why do they need to have personalities? They don't need it.
But, a bear would totally kill a silverback gorilla in a fight.
What about like a grizzly bear or
Oh, yeah, grizzly bear.
any kind of bear?
Any kind of bear, for the most part.
Yeah. I'm sure.
Gorillas aren't even good fighters. Like, have you ever seen a gorilla get into a fight?
Well, no, I don't think so. Not outside of like a Disney movie.
Yeah, they're not very tactical, right? They can wrestle a bit, they can like roll around, but they kind of just like smack things at random. Maybe they'll bite, they're biters, but they're not like a bear. A bear, when you've seen bears fight each other, right? Because bears will spar. Bears are like genetically finely tuned killing machines. Bears will actually pin each other down. When they wrestle, it almost looks like freaking like jiu-jitsu players wrestling with each other, right? They'll toss each other around, they'll pin each other, and they'll jab each other and smack each other in like pinpoint accuracy. These things are designed to kill. Gorillas are like teddy bears that are just too strong for their own good and have a temper problem.
Timothy Olsen, grizzly versus gorilla. Make it happen.
Oh, dude, a grizzly
would win.
Destroy a gorilla. Like, not even close. In fact,
King Kong BTF.
Yeah, well, King Kong, and at least the new one, is not a gorilla.
Isn't he more of a chimpanzee kind of?
Kind of, yeah.
Sort
the
of?
original King Kong was very much a gorilla, but the new Kong is actually more like almost like a hominid. He's like a very early human. Like, he'll go around on all four, but for the most part, he walks around like an early human does. Same stature and everything. And he's a lot more tactical than a gorilla is, too.
Plus, at that size, he must have a huge brain, right?
You would hope.
Although, I guess it depends on the smoothness or folds of the brain more than necessarily the size.
Grizzly bear kaiju.
Grizzly kaiju. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah. Yogi versus Kong is smarter than the average bear.
Right. See, they pitted a gorilla against a lizard. They needed to pit it against a giant bear.
A crocodile would probably also kill a silverback gorilla in a fight.
Oh, okay.
A bear would kill a crocodile, no problem, though. Like the bear would even just stand in the river, wouldn't even care. Like, the crocodile would come up, it's got so much weight on it, too. Like, the croc would probably try to grab its leg, it would probably try to do a death roll. The bear would just smack it right across the head.
Yeah.
Bears are just nuts, man. They're crazy.
What about a bear versus a sex robot?
I think the bear wins.
Because it depends. Yeah.
Yeah.
Since they apparently can't actually move on their own. One day we will make robots that can defeat bears.
Yeah.
In a fight. That's
to be fair,
should be the
humans
goal.
can defeat bears in fights if you're heavily armed. And I mean heavily armed.
That's cheating.
Is it? I mean,
naked sex robot versus bear. That's the ultimate challenge.
Yeah, the bear probably would put its full weight onto that gator. Like, this is dead. Anyway, it's 9 o'clock. Thank you for joining us on our short little power hour of our weekday show on the Vomitorium. And if you enjoyed it, please share it with somebody you know that may also enjoy the show. Like it wherever you are, and you know by now how to support it. So,
tell your friends.
Yeah, give me money. Anyway, we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.